Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar fan commentary track video. This one is going to be for Book 2 Earth Episode 1, The Avatar State. So to sync up your copy of the episode with this commentary track, have it ready to go at the start of the episode, including the introduction. Then I'm going to be wrapping up this introduction section to the video in just a little bit. Then there'll be a pause of 10 seconds with no audio. And then when I start speaking again after that pause, that's when I'm going to hit play, that's when you should hit play, and we should be synced up. So, bringing the introduction of the video to an end, after the 10-second pause, when you hear me speak again, that's when you should hit play, and that should have us synced up for the commentary. Okay, so here we are with 201, The Avatar State. I have this episode rated as my number 36 out of 61 on my episode list, which may seem fairly low, but again, this is another one of those episodes that it's actually in my second highest tier. There's just a lot of episodes in the top two tiers. So I still, consider it to be in the middle of a lot of the really, really good batch of episodes. It's just that there are episodes that are better than this one. This is an excellent start to the season, an excellent start to the Avatar State arc that continues pretty much all the way up into the finale, and is especially a focus this season. I also think there's a strength of this episode is just that I like how it presents a lot of the characters' points of view on sort of using the Avatar State, in that General Fong, by the end of the episode, you're kind of like, oh, he's a bit over the top, kind of almost like comedic in terms of how kind of villainous he sort of gets, what he's willing to do to have the Avatar State work for him. But you understand his perspective and why he wants to use it to end the war so suddenly after what he's heard. Basically him hearing about the events of the Book 1 finale. And then especially stuff like this, starting the episode off with Aang's nightmares about how he himself feels about, not fully like being aware at the times of what he's done, and almost kind of finding out about it afterwards, what he has done, or, experiencing it in dreams like this. You understand the sort of suffering from someone who is like a pacifist, but this is this ability that he sort of at some point is going to have to use. It's tough for him to just be like seeing himself when he goes either emotionally over the top or when he's in so much danger he nearly gets injured. It's pretty intense. Here we go. Spirit Oasis Water, very important for the finale, very much a bookmark thing for the season. Waterbending Scrolls. And yet, looking up at Katara, she's going to be Aang's new teacher, because she surpassed him over the course of the training. And Sokka gets nothing. But I like the setup. Pakku's going to the south with some of the others to help sort of rebuild, and it's the setup for the comic North and South, which works out quite nicely to see how much things have changed, because they don't return for like 2 and a bit years, I guess. So a good amount of time has actually passed since like this moment and Pakku returning. So there's a while for the South to actually rebuild, and then everyone returns. But yeah, we get this episode focuses quite heavily on Aang's, Katara's, Fong's perspective on the Avatar State, and I think they do a good job at presenting the complexity of the situation, and it's not just Fong is terrible for asking this. His point has gotten across fairly well, I think. But yeah, 3 years of banishment for Zuko, and now he sees himself in this position, especially by the end of the episode, where does he even have any hope? Azula is now coming after him. Azula always gets the better of him. She's always lucky. Zuko's always unlucky. Does he have hope anymore that he'll actually be able to, fulfill his destiny in his mind? Capture the Avatar and return as a hero and, regain his honor. Zhao basically got in his way the entirety of Book 1. Now his sister's the one getting in the way this book. Even worse, given the history that they have, of course. And here we go. This is Azula's mission, is to capture the two of them. And this builds to the whole idea of Zuko and Iroh on the run from their own nation means that Zuko doesn't have the support, the ability to be actively out in the open hunting the Avatar, so he gets a chance to sort of be more undercover and just see the Earth Kingdom, see the effect of the Fire Nation on the rest of the world, and actually learns more from that than anything else. And so it's such a great build, especially as we get into the Ba Sing Se arc, and he becomes a bit more like, maybe there is a sense that there is a different path for me. It's probably not settling down in the city, but maybe it is something different. And then right at the end of the season, he makes the wrong decision. It's a great arc for Zuko. It's so much development here. But yeah, everyone always talks about this scene. I like it. I think it's a bit maybe overdone at this point of just like how amazing of an Azula scene this is. It gets across her approach very effectively from the start, but I think it's more effective when done with characters like Long Feng later on, just because this captain guy is sort of revealed to be like a bit of a bit incompetent, as we see later on in the episode. He makes another mistake, that her control through fear doesn't work perfectly. And yeah, Fong tries to sort of butter them all up here. He knows about what happened in the north, and he's trying to get on their good side, sort of knowing he's going to ask something quite intense of the group here, especially Aang. But, celebrity welcome for everyone here with General Fong. And you can see the second he heard about what Aang did, he's just been lost in thought of the war has been going on for so long. We've had nothing along this level. Now that he can seemingly use the Avatar state, we can win this right now. One sort of initial powerful strike against the Fire Lord could take him out. This is a chance to end it right here and now. It seems foolhardy, reflecting on it now, given that there's so many episodes of the series left to go. But from his perspective of just being the general who's led his troops for 20, 30 years, all part of the war. He's seen so many men come and go, sees the wounded and stuff like that, which you'll show in a second. Him seeing just the potential of just the Avatar state as a weapon, you get that point of view. And Aang's concern is just that, I have no control over myself. I can't initiate it properly, nor can I control myself there. That's the doubt. And Katara is obviously very defensive about this because, from her perspective, she hates seeing Aang like that because she knows it's not him, that he's not in control, and he becomes frightening when he's like that. But the counterpoint is that, theoretically, Aang could almost win the war with one sort of Avatar state invasion of the Fire Nation and stop more Earth Kingdom soldiers having to die. But again, it's the lack of details here. At this stage, we don't know the full extent of what the Avatar state is, outside of it clearly relates to the lineage of the Avatars, and that we've seen Roku do firebending, put himself sort of through Aang. We've seen Aang use waterbending when he hasn't learned it yet. But yeah, lightning. So there was a setup in the storm that Iroh could redirect natural lightning, but now here's the setup that, it's actually a firebender ability to sort of bend lightning, and so Azula can actually generate it. And she's a perfectionist, so that's something very different, showing the level of skill that she's at compared to Zuko, and that the lightning connection back to Iroh is kind of important given what will happen at the end of the episode, I suppose. But yeah, Aang agrees to it because, from Aang's perspective, he has failed the world. This comes back to the storm and the fishermen basically being you abandoned us, you abandoned the world for 100 years because of the mistake that he made by running away. He still beats himself up over that, and now he can't sort of see past what Fong has said of this is an opportunity to stop more suffering in the war, to end it right now. But you get it. You get Katara's point of view. You get Sokka's more basic point of view of just well, if we could get Aang to go into the Avatar state, near the Fire Lord, it probably would end the war there and then. There's a simplistic kind of like it would work aspect to it. But yeah, I love all these different methods to try and get Aang to enter the Avatar state. Just like, you know, basically energy drink, I suppose. And it just makes Aang hyper. It's just a great, like, oh, there's lots of energy, not the energy they're talking about, though. And it's just like, oh, just a scare, but because it's not super serious, it's not going to work. But I love the Sokka with Momo's head. The teamwork. And you begin to see Fong get more and more serious, and like, it's going to take something big to make this happen. And I love this. Combine the four elements together. What does it make? It makes hot, bubbly mud, basically. And I think that's the funny thing about it, is that, like, I suppose that's what it is. All four elements together is just sort of like wet earth with air in it, and it's hot. That's really it. Shells. And here we go. Confrontation. Immediately. What are you doing here? Not very good relationship, of course. Zuzu, so nickname. She's the younger sister, but she has the nickname for him. And immediately, like, we know this is a blatant lie, but it is Azula realizing what Zuko must want to hear, and it working. And Zuko kind of struggles to accept this, believe it. And just immediately that sense of the kind of conflict between Azula and Iroh, that she's at the same time dismissive of him, but views him as sort of enough of a threat to sort of her manipulation of Zuko that she does try to shut him down or kind of isolate Zuko from Iroh, but fundamentally does always underestimate Iroh, which is the Azula's sort of problem. She sort of has a little bit of a blind spot to Iroh at times. I really like this speech here from Katara. Like, this is the perspective Katara is coming at it from, the more kind of emotional, really caring about the person, that Aang isn't a weapon, he's a person. Look at how you viewed yourself in your dreams. That's how I feel when I saw it actually happen in front of me. But the pressure isn't on Katara in the same way that it's on Aang. Aang is the Avatar. He is the one who, when he encounters people, there is that sense of, where were you the last 100 years? And I really like that depth, that the characters aren't arguing with each other. There's not so much drama as just they have different opinions, but they can sort of, they just have to accept that that's where they are on things. And this is one of the few senses you get of Iroh and Ozai's dynamic, in terms of Iroh giving his opinion on his brother. That doesn't seem like Iroh. Jealous of his brother. And I suppose that's the Azula, Ozai perspective on the situation. But arguably, I think the way you're meant to interpret it is perhaps that it's maybe the other way around, that Ozai is maybe jealous of Iroh, but again, we don't actually have that dynamic. But that's just the way Zuko kind of views it at this point. That you you don't have the respect for my father, who is the Fire Lord. That he still has that fire. I need to be, get my honor restored by my father mentality. So he has the respect for him, whereas Iroh at this point knows exactly who his brother is. And what Azula said does not fit Ozai as he knows him. But Iroh's going to be here to support him, like he has been. But Iroh's prepared. He knows something's not right here. Zuko's so just like, oh, things are going the way I want it to. Great, without analyzing the situation. But yeah. Aang reveals the one piece of information that causes him to turn. And obviously this is where you completely go against Fong of no, this is not the right way to do it. How do you not realize that if you attack him to force him into the Avatar state, that he won't go against you? How are you going to get him into the Avatar state here and then suddenly direct him towards the Fire Nation when the threats that you've gone into the Avatar state for are the ones in front of him? So, but it's meant to exemplify just that this is how far gone he is. He's lost the logic of the situation. And it's nice to see more of Aang's sort of dodging here. We saw a bit of this against Bumi in episode 5. And then pretty impressive here against the whole kind of army, basically. That he's not striking back, but he is able to avoid a whole, battalion of Earth Kingdom soldiers. There's some really nice moments here. Just they're obviously not used to fighting airbenders and someone being this agile, but Fong is actually a very, very powerful earthbender. As we see in a second, he actually manages to completely sort of stonewall Katara, which doesn't happen that often given that Katara's done her training at this point. It's one of the few times she gets properly she goes for an attack and is just completely stopped. And yeah, the captain from before ends up making a mistake here, but Iroh's already suspicious. The prisoners. And it's straight away, boom, boom, boom. Very little effort, he takes everyone out. And so, straight away, boom. And I do like the setup of he's in so much danger here, but he's avoiding it. But he's not going into the Avatar state. But Katara being in danger is the thing that immediately puts him into the Avatar state. It's the most clearest setup for the finale. That episode 1 of the season, he goes into the Avatar state because Katara's in danger. And then the setup for the finale is Katara's in danger. But to unlock the Avatar state, you are meant to be able to let her go if the time comes. And here we go. Obviously, it's a crazy situation for Katara, surrounded here by 20 earthbenders. She doesn't have the same dodging abilities of Aang. But still, she goes to attack Fong one-on-one, and he really does stonewall her waterbending there. You don't see Katara taken down like that. Obviously, it's completely his environment. And Katara perhaps still doesn't have the direct combat experience in that since she's become a master, that is her first fight against an earthbender. But yeah, it's a very intense moment. Because he's gone so crazy, you kind of believe he might be willing to just kill Katara for it. The second she goes away, you know she's probably not dead, but of course. The music comes on. the way they draw his face with the Avatar state, and how just with the glow, fun-loving Aang can look like the biggest threat in the world. It's such a great way that they're able to immediately change the tone. But yeah, Zuko immediately takes out the guards, but how is he against Azula? And again, this is a setup for the finale as well, in a way of Iroh being like, now is time to retreat, but Zuko stays to fight and nearly gets himself killed. The same thing sort of happens in the start and end of the book. And the truth comes out. This is how he actually feels. I just talked to him. We're actually here to capture you. He doesn't feel that way about you. And she just lures him in, not really attacking back for the most part, in terms of directly bending at him. This is just her pure sort of hand-to-hand skill and agility. And she has the edge. But like one quick blast, blue fire, and then she's charging up the lightning. So she's going for a killing blow here, because she of course charges up the lightning. But lightning redirect, again from Iroh, and kicks her into the water. She didn't expect that, because she, I suppose, that was probably her first experience there with the idea that lightning redirection is even a thing. But we've seen it before. Yeah, and he's sort of gone crazy with power here. The idea of like, he's heard about the Avatar state, what a power it is. Now that he's seen it, he's like, yes, this will win the war. But he doesn't really have the respect for it. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this hasn't happened before really. But he has connected with Roku before. So here's what the Avatar state is. How does it work? Defense mechanism. Skills and knowledge of all the past avatars. And so giant earth bending. You know, basically create giant waves. Create huge winds. Make volcanoes erupt. You know, they I suppose they wanted to show firebending there, but they ended up actually showing lava bending, which is kind of funny. Before they fully planned it out as it being an earthbender technique. But instead, Avatar Jafar there is using lava bending. But yeah. The most powerful, but also the most vulnerable. With the idea later being explained that the reason that is the case is because, of course, the Avatar spirit, Rava, gets damaged at the same time as the human does when you're in the Avatar state. And Rava dying is the thing that loses the Avatar cycle. But yeah, the destruction that he's caused, look at all the like earth earth discs implanted in the walls of this fortress and so on. And they're like, this was probably the best thing to do. He's been so obsessed with Avatar state, it's probably good that he gets taken out here. And here we go. Wanted posters going out for Zuko and Iroh. They are truly on the run now. They can't be fully out there as just they are Fire Nation now. How's this going to work? So yeah. Important here. Cutting off their top knots to sort of signify their separation from the Fire Nation royal family. And I suppose for Zuko this is kind of interesting, like, okay, he's not royal anymore. And then towards the end of the season, of course, he does the same thing in terms of throwing away the blue spirit mask. And it's like, ooh, Zuko's discarded these two things this book. That's quite interesting. But yeah, like I said, pretty solid episode. I don't think it quite has the impact of some of the much better episodes of the series, but it's still very, very good in terms of introducing an important plot point with the Avatar state. General Fong, I think, being a pretty solid sort of, you know, antagonist for the group here, with just someone who wants to use the Avatar state to end the war, but goes too far with a sort of lack of thought for things. And then on the Zuko side of things, obviously the introduction of Azula being a very, very important topic for the series as well. To have such a strong introduction for the character, and immediately someone who is going to be much more of a threat than Zhao was. Really, really strong. But yeah, that's been the episode discussion. Thanks for watching, and bye.